So, for those who aren't in the UK, we've had some unusual weather, and it's been like down to -8, -9. That might not seem much for some places, but for the UK, that's quite severe at this time of year. And now we are a couple of days later, and it's back up into double figures in the positive. So, we'll have a quick look around the plot and see how much damage has been done and what everything's looking like. So let's start off in the fruit cage. Honeyberries have now lost all their leaves. Hopefully they'll have survived it. Elephant garlic is doing all right. These are the beetroot, and they've just sort of succumbed. They went in really late, so they haven't actually formed anything. Let's pull some of these out just to see what's going on. So, yeah, so there isn't a... They haven't got round to actually developing a root because they went in really late, so they're done for. They're not going to spring back. The blueberries over here, these have still got some of the leaves on them. I'm not sure how secure those leaves are. They're still quite on there. They're not too bad. All the blackberries down there have actually still got some of their leaves, and they still seem to be quite enjoying it. So no real damage there. All the raspberry canes now have pretty much lost all their leaves, which is a good thing. With a mild run up to winter, a lot of them had actually started to try and fruit again. And I didn't want that because I didn't want them to use any energy for that. The grapevine is all dormant now, but hopefully that will have survived the cold. These little strawberry plants down here, they don't seem to have cared. And the carrots are have sprung back quite nicely. A week ago these were just completely flattened, but they seem to have sprung back, and they're doing all right. So let's try and hoik one of these out and see what it's like. So that's not bad. These went in really late, and we just put them in really to test the bed. But that's not too bad. We'll give that a try later and see whether the frost has sweetened that up. Let's go over to the other beds. So this is the garlic and the onion bed, and they really haven't, they were flattened last week, but they've sprung back nicely. Let's have a look in here. This is all salad lettuce. I'm not hopeful. I mean, let's get a load of that. I mean, just tighten up so it doesn't fall down. I mean, that has sprung back amazingly. I mean, this cold frame has been a godsend. It's certainly looking better in this cold frame than it is in the Polytunnel. I think that's because this cold frame is a smaller area, so the heat generated from the plants and everything else and in there has meant that the actual frost hasn't been quite so severe as it is elsewhere. So in here, let's have a look. Turnips are doing all right. Rocket has sprung back nicely. Onions are all right in there. Radish that are in there just been completely flattened. Let's have a look in this bed that's got the fleece cover on it. As I suspected, the pak choi that's in here is, well, it's completely gone really. Interestingly, the red pak choi has done a lot better than the white stuff, and everything else in here again was absolutely flattened, and I can see that there's some old leaves here that need clearing off, but you can see that the middle of the plants where the fresh growth is here and here is actually just springing back nicely. So I think a little bit of tidying up in there. I'm not sure the pak choi is going to survive, but I think a bit of tidying up of the dead stuff. There you go. This is going to flower. So focus on that. It's actually trying to flower in there. So yeah, a bit of tidying up, taking away some really dead stuff. I think that'll be not too bad. Over here, well, the asparagus just doesn't seem to want to ever die. It's just going on and on. Under here is some more beetroot. Again, they were put in quite late on. I don't think they're going to come to much, which isn't a bad thing really, because this bed down the end here is where I want to move the rhubarb to, so might be able to get on and do that before the rhubarb completely flattened. But that's as expected. In the trial beds, these spring onions have sprung back absolutely amazingly. And a couple of days ago, they were flat and looking really limp. The garlic's there, and I was saying the other day that I didn't see anything, but there, just in there, can you, right at the back there, let me get a hand in there, right back there, you can see that actually, I was complaining the other day that none of the onions have come up, the onion sets that we put in. Let's have a quick look in this other bed. Again, it's looking quite healthy. No sign of those onions yet though. In here, this one, I would say that actually the spring onions haven't bounced back quite as well. And in here, again, they're not too bad. So this was a Wix's compost. This was another Westlands compost. This over here was our local sourced compost. That's really good stuff. And this was the stuff that I mixed, which is our local compost that I mixed the coir in with. And I would say that that's probably going the best. And then our local compost is next. And this Westlands compost is looking probably the weakest at the moment. And the Wix's own brand stuff is not quite as good as the locally sourced stuff, but it's doing okay. But we'll carry on with the trial throughout the year and see how it goes. So this is in the Polytunnel, and as I say, these red ones have done remarkably well, really. I think they've done quite well. They're a bit tidying up. These, the white ones, as you can see, they're just, that's just gone, really. This Masuma, these mustards, again, these just seem to like have shrugged it off. There's obviously some bigger leaves here that have suffered, but we'll tidy those up. And again, these other mustards, as you can see, these down here, this is just gone over. But as you can see, down in the heart of here, fresh growth coming up through. And I mean, this is just in the last couple of days since it's warmed up. So we'll tidy all these up, get off the old dead stuff. Down here, rocket, quite happy with it, really. As I say, some of the bigger, broader, more mature leaves have gone over. But actually, surprisingly, I mean, a week ago, this was looked flattened. 2 days ago, I was very doubtful whether anything would have survived. But just goes to show that get a bit nice warm weather on them again, and they'll soon sprout up. So we'll clean the old leaves up, and that'll be a good job. So we've still got a few late broad beans sprouting in there. These are the lettuce we transplanted. Again, we'll give them a few more days to come back. Some radish in here that were frozen solid, but they seem to have come back okay. And this was the tray of lettuce, which again is looking a bit limp and lifeless, but it will survive probably, or some of it will survive. One thing that did take a big hit was all the sweet peas. They're all looking pretty flat, a lot of those. So we'll give them a few more days to spring up. And then what we might do is I might end up potting them on, and just, so something like this where it's flattened out. If it doesn't spring back up, what I'll do is I'll take that out of its module. They're all in little modules, and then just bury it up to about there in the soil, and hopefully that will rectify that problem. And the asparagus that was left over doesn't seem to have cared whether anything's happened or not. It's just carrying on growing. I mean, this is the temperature gauge here. We can see that, hopefully, just about to see that it's currently 16, has been up to about 17, but at one point in here, Not sure how accurate that is, but it was nearly -12. So that's how it's all looking. So that's how it's looking on the plot at the moment. If I'd given the tour a couple of days ago, it would have been, well, it would have been a sight of devastation. But I'm really surprised that it's all come back really well. One thing that isn't going to come back though is the potatoes. So we put those potatoes in a while back, so we're going to go and get a wheelbarrow and we're going to turf that bucket out and see what's in there. Right, so this was the potatoes that we had in the Polytunnel, and see that they're it's completely died off in the cold weather, so we're going to turf these out today and see what. I'm not expecting anything. These went in again, they went in really late, and they weren't seed potatoes, they were just potatoes that we actually happened to have in the cupboard that I noticed had some really nice chits on them, so I chucked them in a bucket. And so let's turf these out and see what's going on. So my expectation is that there'll be nothing in here apart from a few rotten potatoes, but let's have a look. It's all really wet. It's all really wet. Oh, a little potato there. Another little one there. So that's the seed potato that was in there. Another tiny little potato. Another tiny little potato. Put those down there. Let's give this a good hoik through. It's really wet. From where it's been in frosted. That's the other seed potato there. There's another little potato. That's it, one of the other seed potatoes are in there. So I don't think, oh, another little potato there. So I don't think there's going to be much else in here. So look round. No, I think that's probably about it. So get that mud off my hands. So what have we got? So, potato harvest. How's that for a potato harvest? But to be fair, it's not impressive, but it's 6 mini potatoes that I wasn't expecting to be in there at all. So, hey, take them home, scrub them up, and there's nice little new potatoes. As I say, everything on the plot this year is one of the reasons we haven't got any brassicas and everything else growing this year, and a lot of potatoes and other stuff. And it's mostly salad crops, is that we've completely refitted the plot. So when we got some of the summer crops out, instead of trying to work around beds and stuff like that, we just took the decision that we'd not do anything for the sort of autumn and into winter. And actually then what we would do is just give ourselves a clean slate so that we could actually just work, and we weren't trying to work around beds and stuff. But next year, obviously, we'll get these in a lot earlier, and we'll hopefully get a better potato harvest than this.